Hey, checking in with Chapter 5 of The Hill of Dreams by Arthur Machen, published in 1907, written in between like 1895 and 1897. It's following Lucian Taylor, who in the previous chapters has found this kind of Roman fort and had all these kind of visions of Rome, of ancient, kind of the ancient pagan Rome in 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 Britain. Very kind of sensuous, very much kind of tapping into kind of the aesthetic movement of exquisite experience, um, with some kind of slightly kind of sadomasochistic stuff of him like lying on thorny branches to try and regain kind of sensations of kind of a lover's thing. I became very obsessed with this sort of farm girl Annie, and kind of exalted her and trying to like make himself worthy of her love. And indeed, in these sections, that is what he has been doing. He has actually taken himself away to kind of a pretty grubby suburb to kind of live cheap, but live like I guess on his own, and kind of isolate himself from the rest of humanity, sort of to in his pursuit of art, because he's very much a writer. We've had in the earlier chapter him having written a book which seems to have gotten absconded with by other people who've put it in their own book, but he just doesn't care. He can't kind of be bothered. But he wants, in this chapter, he kind of does admit that he wants to write a valiant book, one that, you know, he'd rather be a Dulliard of Cervantes' school versus, a great man of the kind of the commercial trash that, his well-meaning relatives, because all writers have well-meaning relatives that go, oh, well, that Dan Brown writes books that sell a lot of money. You should write one of those. It's just like, God. Um, you know, but he's definitely kind of withdrawn himself more and more from sort of society just to focus on kind of words and the magic alchemical kind of properties of words and how they can shape reality, and just how much like studying masters, how much just like altering a single word can make everything collapse, and in that way they kind of resembling spells or druggy incantations. There's a lot of talk in here of Coleridge and Poe, and kind of, I think of Coleridge and kind of opium addiction, and that kind of deep ringing. Now, in these sections, we do avoid what could be the kind of the cliche thing is, which is he gets word that Annie has married a farmer, and apparently was engaged to her for quite a while. And Lucian says like, oh, I guess the cliche thing would be for me to kind of fly into a rage of passion about this, but actually all he feels is kind of a bit of amusement, and he's actually grateful to Annie because he sort of removed the kind of the dull grossness of Annie herself, and left. I think what he says is like, he doesn't think he needs a actual physical body to have this love, for Annie, and the Annie that he loves isn't the Annie that married the farmer, but a different Annie that is sort of like he panned for gold, and then he kind of, sifted out all the impurities and has this pure single kind of this ingot of gold. That's what Annie is. This Annie of his imagination is to him. And through these sections he gets letter from his cousin kind of scolding him like, you're I've told people like you're a man of letters but you haven't published anything, and we've got what are obviously duller kind of the barbarians who are like, oh, they're getting a good job in the city, they're going to make lots of money. What have you done? You should try and do something like that, or or write commercial crap. churn that out to make a quick buck. So and he's like, when he gets it, he's like kind of files away as under barbarian, that he's got his little barbarian pigeonhole for missives like this. But later he does get kind of down, and it's like, God, have I wasted my time? I wasted everything. Luckily, he's inherited £2,000 from a cousin in the Isle of Wight who's died and left him some money, so he actually can be supported, though it is in quite much in poverty. He sounds like he's basically eating a hunk of bread and then drinking a lot of green tea and smoking tobacco, is how he's getting by. But it's the bare minimum of his physical needs to be able to kind of delve deeply into into the literature that he's really plying his art at. And I mean, his art is in like a master art, and people criticizing him for not, like, you should have gone to university. You'd have that air of university around you, and you'd make the right kind of friends. It's like, well, that's not really what he's interested in. And he does kind of pick himself up and continue working on his art, his writing, his that, and kind of being able to, yes, I'm in the midst of just great grime and probably depressing squalor, but able to sort of transform it, sitting at his little desk. The little desk that the one that was there was basically, I think what they say is basically mastered the art of being of rocking stone. Like, there's no way you could actually write on it without it rocking back and forth. So he went out and bought this old Japanese little table with like a inkwell and knot holes, and it's like, oh, this will do me. And when he sits at that, he is able to transport himself. But man, it sure is a lonely, though rich life, with his imaginary Annie to keep him company. Imaginary Annie, who's, you get the sense that the love kind of warmed his imagination, like his imagination of Rome and stuff like that. Having that imaginary kind of pure Annie sort of cast a warm light on all of that, and kind of brought it more to life, and he's grateful to her for that, which is kind of lovely. Yeah. So, some of the earlier chapters was like, wow, this guy's gone off the deep end. But sometimes at this point, I'm thinking, it's like, no, he does seem to actually have something that he's kind of pushing towards, and this great art that he's trying to do. And it's like, Cervantes comes up, Smollett, Roderick Random, and how, like, even like kind of with that kind of like a coarse tale of kind of picaresque really captures the 18th century of the smell of the highways and the kind of the grubbiness and all that of the 18th century, which is like, and this is sort of the thing that he's trying to get at with his own work, which I guess if you go with Arthur Machen, if that's what he's trying to capture of his youth, trying to be a writer, being surrounded by barbarians who just don't really give a shit for all this art stuff, don't value it at all, and how he's had to become slightly inhuman to kind of separate himself from these not very, very helpful people at all. Yeah, so that's chapter 5 of Hill of Dreams by Arthur Machen. I will check in as I go along. All right, more videos later.